Hi everybody. So it might be a bit of a surprise what we're making this week because I've completely and utterly messed March's calendar up, but we're going to be making some fabric daffodils. So hopefully you all like the look of these. We were supposed to be doing them in the first week of March, but we haven't got all of the yellow fabrics in stock. So we are going to be doing them today, and I've just realised that I've stuck my centre on the back, but hey ho. So let me just turn the heater off because it looks like I've been sat next to the sun. So inspired by all of the daffodils at the moment that are out and lovely and blooming, mine just a little bit past the best, we're going to be making some fabric daffodils. So I've put mine on a little stake that you could obviously add to a bouquet or something, but you could equally put a brooch back on or just hand sew it onto something. I thought it'd be quite nice to do an Easter wreath or something like that with some nice flowers and maybe one of the Easter bunnies or something like that from the last couple of weeks. So it's really basic in terms of what material you will need. You will need 5 4-inch squares of cotton fabric, 4-inch or 10 centimetres. Sorry, I do tend to predominantly work in centimetres. So I've got 5 4-inch or 10 centimetre squared fabric. And then I've also got a strip for the centre, which is 4 centimetres or 1.5 inches wide. And this is 50 centimetres long. I did mine as long as a fat quarter, but you can see it's really, really full is that middle. So probably what I'm going to play around doing with tonight is just making that a bit shorter so it's not quite as crazy in the middle. So obviously the longer you strip, the more fabric you're going to have. The shorter you strip, the smaller it will be. So I'm going to play around, maybe see what it'd be like if it's a little bit smaller. So the first job is ironing. I'm sorry. Oh, and you'll also need for the back a little disc of felt. So I've used yellow just to blend in with the fabric, but it doesn't matter, it's not really going to be seen. And of course, obviously, the stick is optional. Hi everybody, I can see everyone coming in. Everyone's probably thinking, oh, what are we doing tonight? So we're going to do the fabric daffodil that I was supposed to do at the beginning of March. And then at the end of the video, I will tell you everything that's kind of going to go on going forward, because I'm going to give myself a little break of a week off next week for the Easter holidays. This is my first year being a school holiday mum, so I'm not on the ball on the calendar, so it's sort of crept up on me a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is do some ironing, so I shall just swivel you round and we will do that now. Ooh. So I've got my squares. Obviously these are all plain, so there is no right or wrong side. However, if you were doing it with a patterned fabric, then you want to be putting the right sides together. So if it's plain, it doesn't matter. So I'm hoping you can all hear me okay when I move over here. So I'm just taking my square and I'm going to fold it together. So the wrong sides would be together if it had a print on it. And then I'm going to take that folded edge, I'm going to take the outside corner and I'm just going to fold it down so that all of the open edges, the bottom edges meet. And then the same on the other side. So I'm just bringing those shorter edges now in together to get something a little bit like that. And I'm going to need to repeat that 5 times. So right sides together to take your square to a rectangle. And then I'm going to take that folded edge and bring it down so that the raw edges meet up here and that fold goes to the centre of your square. And the same on the other side. So those folded edges match up in the middle, or more or less. And just keep on going. It's a bit like fabric origami, is this? I'm trying to keep my eyes on questions, but the phone's facing away from me, so I shall do my best. So if you were batch making these, you could obviously do all your rotary cutting, all your cutting of your squares, like maybe you would with patchwork, and then do all your ironing, and then it's a case of just, whilst they're all pressed, so sitting down, somewhere comfy, and lots of hand stitching. There is a tiny weeny bit of machine stitching, but really it's optional. So I'm keeping that going until I get to 5. I'm nearly there now. Like that. So I'm just going to swivel you around. I'm just going to turn that off for a moment because I'm not using it immediately. And I'm going to take some good old dental floss, which I do like to use, because I want a really nice strong thread. So I've got my squares and I want to make sure that they all go on the chain the same way. So when I start off, I'm just going to grab myself a bit of the fabric. And I always tend to double my thread, even the dental floss over. And I'm just going to go through that double layer of thread like that, just to create a nice big knot. So no matter how hard I pull, that knot's never going to pull out. It's actually anchored into the fabric. And I'm just doing little running stitches, about 1 centimetre. They don't need to be too small. And I'm working about 1/2 centimetre away from that bottom edge where all the open edges are all sort of loaded together. So I'm not doing anything on the folded side, just working with the raw edges. Just pulling back like that. And then the same. So I'm always making sure I'm starting from the same point. So no anchoring, no knotting this time, because we want them to all run smoothly along your thread or dental floss or whatever it is you're using. As long as it's nice and strong, it doesn't matter too much what it is. You can see on some of them it's a little bit uneven. I've worked a little bit further away from the edge of my fabric, but it doesn't matter too much. And just sort of pull them along. Now it's up to you what you want to do, whether you want to leave them all fairly flat or sort of squish them all up and gather them in as you go like that. And then it's less pressure when you get to the end of your daffodil. These would be really lovely if you know anybody or have any sort of connections or associations with Marie Curie. It'd be nice maybe to make somebody who's been touched by their services one of these. Because they'd look like their lovely logo and signature flower. And Mary's just said about the poppies that we did in November or October, probably most of us. And yeah, it's really similar sort of process. That's really nice. Just nice and simple and quite repetitive and therapeutic, really. So I'm just keeping on going until I get to my 5. So I'm at 4 now, so I'm not far off. I've just seen Mandy's comment pop up about missing the folding. I'll do that. I'll do another one. I've got a spare square, so she'll do another one in a moment, don't worry. But you can, of course, always watch the videos back as well if you do forget, because it's easy, isn't it, once you've been doing other things. So I'm nearly there, and I'm just going to keep on pulling mine so they are all nice and tight. Again, just keeping that little running stitch going, however you want to do it. I am always, and I always say this, I'm a very lazy sewer, so I'll find the quickest and speediest way of doing something. So I'm nearly there. I'm nearly at the end of my 5th petal. Like that. I'm going to scrunch them all up. So I'm not going to do anything with that just yet until I've put my centre in. So I'll just very quickly show you the folding in a minute. I'm going to do the centre. I'm going to do the centre in a contrast. I'm going to go for sort of the exact opposite. And I'm going to just reduce that a little bit. I think I'm going to reduce it down to about 30 centimetres, just so you can see the difference in the size difference. And also, it will just take a little bit less time while you're all watching. So it's the only time you need your machine. And like I said, it's not necessarily essential. I'm just going to do a little running stitch on that short seam there, just to join those two short edges together. So if you don't have a machine or you don't want to do it on the machine, you don't have to. You can just do a little running stitch. It'll be absolutely fine. So that's my machine work done, and then I will just press this. I'll show you how I press it, and then I'll just press those squares again, just as a bit of a recap for people. So just going to press those seams open, so I've sewn the right sides together, and then I'm going to iron the wrong sides together. So if anybody's made a t-shirt and they've done a neckband or a cuff, it will feel just like that. So I'm just putting those wrong sides together. I'm trying to keep it all together and just give it a little press. So I'm just going to peep to make sure that my underneath layers are all matching up. So these lower edges, so I'm just going to manipulate that a little bit so that's folded a bit more accurately in half. Give that a good steamy press. So I've got like a little loop now. So squares, just as a recap, you want to take your square and you want to put your wrong sides together if your fabric has a wrong side to create a rectangle. And then you're going to take that folded edge and just bring it towards the middle so that all of your open edges, so the ones from the side, are matching the ones on the bottom. And then the same on the other side. So again, bringing the folded edge in to the centre and creating a little triangle, so obviously then when you gather creates that lovely little petal shape. So I am going to grab some more dental floss for my little loop. So I've just left the thread on there for the time being. I'm going to grab some more dental floss and another needle. So I'm hoping it's not going to take me 5 minutes to thread a needle. Phew. And again, I just always double it over. Like I said, it's probably not really necessary with this thread this thick, but I think it's a habit really. So I'm going to start off at around about my seam. It doesn't really matter where you start because you're going to go sew in a big loop. And again, I'm just going to grab a bit of fabric and just catch my original thread so it's really anchored on. Oh, that's annoying. Anyway, so again, a little running stitch. And again, I'm about 1/2 centimetre away from that raw open edge. So just roughly about 1 centimetre stitches. So this strip started off at 4 centimetres wide or 1.5 inches, depending on what you're working. And I've done this one 30 centimetres in length, so about 20 centimetres shorter. So we'll see how this one looks. I do find hand stitching is so therapeutic. Whoops. And hopefully if we are continuing this lovely sunshine, the kind of thing you can just press in mass, pop in a little bag and then just sew outside somewhere nice, taking all that sunshine and fresh air. So I'm back at the beginning now. So the centre started off at 4 centimetres in width, and this one is 50 centimetres long is the rectangle, and this one was 30. So I'll show you at the end what they look like in comparison. So I'm just pulling it all together like that. So you can see already the centre is much smaller, obviously, because the length of the fabric started much smaller. So I'm pulling it right back, nice and tight. And then again, a little bit like how I started off, I want to just grab a little bit of the fabric and just go through my loop. Just knot it all off and stop that potentially coming open. I'm going to cut that annoying tail thread off. So what I'm just going to do, just to keep it all together, is I want to hold it like a little cylinder and take my needle to the opposite side, like that, and just pull, and it'll almost look a little bit like a spider's web type of thing. And I'm just going to do it again and go, ooh, sugar, sorry, getting all excited. Oh no, getting carried away. Oh no, now I've done something to this. There we go. So opposite side again, and just to draw all those threads up together, and one last one from one opposite to another. Sorry, my hands, it's so cold in this room normally that I put the heating on, and it's so warm that my hands are really slippy. I'm going to do something really naughty now, but they're only paper scissors. There we go. Don't do that at home because you'll completely ruin your scissors. So I've got a little centre now, and what I want to do is I want to just make sure that's going to fit in that gap. So when I put my petals together, I've got a nice gap to put that in. So let's get the right thread. So this thread now, I'll knot off. Don't want to forget to do that. So again, same as always, just 1 or 2 times through your loop. I can put that needle to one side, wherever it is. So this, now, I want to make sure I stick my centre in the right side. So your centre's going to stick where you've got those lovely little pleats. And you're going to take your last petal and your first petal and join them together. But what I want to make sure I do is leave myself enough room for that centre in there. Because on the last one I did, I just made it, I think, a little bit too small. So, quite happy with how they're sitting. So I'm just going to take a bit of one of those petals, my first petal and my last petal, and I'm just going to join them together. Nothing special stitch-wise there, because it's all on the back, so it'll be hidden by a little bit of felt, but it'll just help to keep that circle together. And you could always put, depending on how they're sitting, you could always put an extra stitch up here to keep those together, but I think it should be fine for this. And then, of course, as always, just knot off at the back with a couple of stitches. So I need my circle of felt. So I've got my main petals and I've got my centre, and I'm sort of aiming to sort of push that roughly through there, so that'll hide all of the raw edges. So if you've got any bits of fraying fabric now, you probably want to just trim the excess off. And I'm just going to get a circle of felt. Doesn't need to be massive. Probably about the size of 50p, something like that. So you can really scrap a bust on this one. And I'm cutting it into a circle. Again, it doesn't really matter. It's just so it looks nice and neat on the other side. And then I'm going to use the world's most lethal glue gun. It's like hotter than the sun. And stick my components together. It's just busy causing chaos, is this glue gun. So grab a little bit of glue. So you could use textile glue for this, or you could hand stitch this together. I do love a glue gun, I'm not going to lie. And for speed, I think it's really effective. I do like speedy makes. I'm just pushing that in the centre of my daffodil. And then any little bits like that, like I said, I could just sort of catch with a hand stitch just to hide them. And then I'm going to turn it over. Nice big blob of glue. My stick on the back. And I'm using the pointy side of this kebab skewer just because it's obviously the sharp bit. So you could, I've got some green felt here, you could create some nice leaves. Or you can obviously get, if you're into gardening and you've got the gardening sort of versions of these, you can get them obviously that are green. These are just from my kitchen drawer. So that's what I had to hand. And obviously you can then manipulate your daff. Like that. So I'm not sure whether I prefer the smaller centre or the larger centre. Probably quite nice to have some variations. And if you like the little ones, the miniature ones, then you could probably do, oh, mine are, they're definitely getting past the best. You could probably do some smaller squares as well to start off with. So I hope you liked that make. Just a really sort of quick way, nice scrap bust, nice therapeutic little make. And I'll just flip the camera around. I'm going to move back because it only ends up my nose. Not too big. See, look how red I am. Very hot heater. So this was supposed to be on the first week of March. Obviously, we're waiting for yellow fabric. So what I'm going to do is have a little week off. I'm going to have next Wednesday off, as I will be looking after Daisy, and the following week. So that will start. I think it's the 2nd of April. I was looking for my calendar, which isn't there because it was on my phone, which I'm looking at. The 2nd of April, so there's 4 Wednesdays in April, and I'm going to make the whole of April a bag making session. So we are supposed to be doing today a messenger bag, and next week a clutch. So we'll still do those, and I'm also going to do a yoga mat bag, like a duffel type bag, and then a different type of pocket with zip to put in bags. So hopefully some different skills to cover there, and again some more practical makes. I'm going to use some linen, I'm going to use some magnetic bag clasps and D-rings and things like that. So they might have been little things that you may not have used before, or again just great small quick easy makes that will probably take between half an hour to 45 minutes. So thank you for being patient with me in March. I think I've completely lost all my marbles this month, but we'll get back on it, on the ball in April, and we'll get some nice bags made. So I hope you like this little make, and as always I would love to be tagged in your versions, your variations. I'm sure they'll be much more exciting than mine, and I will see you all in a fortnight's time. I'm sure I'll be bugging you and up on the Facebook Live and stuff before then, but if not, I shall see you officially at 8 o'clock in a couple of weeks' time. So thank you for watching, have a lovely Easter, and I'll see you on the other side.